Chapter 463. Life and Death Game. Outside the warehouse. Lin Chia and Jialon stood on a spacious open ground, their eyes locked on each other. Jialon held a golden spear in her hand, draped in a deep blue Han robe, with a wooden bow slung across her back. Her long, flowing black hair cascaded down to her waist, and her bright eyes scanned the empty surroundings before finally settling on Lin Chia across from her. Lin Chia stood there in black clothing, his gaze serious and filled with deep emotion as he looked at her. It seemed she recalled something, a faint blush appearing on her cheeks as she quietly lowered her head to look at her toes, lost in thought. Lin Chia gripped a straight knife in one hand and the zhanbai in the other, intently staring at Jialon. How should I win against her? This was his first time facing Jialon directly. Her immortal ability had always been a powerful weapon for their team, but now that it was his turn to confront her, Lin Chia truly felt how tricky the situation was. If this had been before Jialon obtained the Tiange, Lin Chia could have easily trapped her, if not defeated her outright. But now, with an extremely powerful spear in her hands, the difficulty had increased several levels. This fight is going to be tough. Jialon, Lin Chia said seriously, I'm coming at you. Jialon was taken aback. In the next moment, Lin Chia's figure flickered and shot towards Jialon like a wisp of shadow. Jialon finally snapped out of her strange reverie, seemingly a bit angry. She swiftly drew the pale yellow wooden bow from her back and shot an arrow at Lin Chia. Lin Chia knew that this arrow was likely imbued with Jialon's immortal ability and could not be taken head-on. He tossed the straight knife into the air with his left hand, freeing up his hand to summon a magic circle which instantly appeared. The Qiyuan sword materialized in his grasp. The blade of Qiyuan struck the arrowhead. Ding! The arrow's kinetic energy was instantly nullified, and under Lin Chia's control, it reversed direction and shot back at Jialon with even greater speed. Since he couldn't destroy the arrow, he would make it change direction. Seeing the arrow rebound towards her, Jialon quickly retracted the immortal property from the arrow, catching it barehanded and placing it back in her quiver. With a tremor of her right hand, the golden spear erupted with a blinding beam of light, surging towards Lin Chia. Lin Chia's eyes narrowed and his figure vanished from the spot. In the next moment he appeared behind Jialon, holding the straight knife controlled by the knight and swung it down. Clang! The blade struck Jialon as if hitting metal, producing a dull thud. Jialon quickly turned around. At such close range she chose not to use her spear but instead delivered a whip-like kick aimed at Lin Chia's waist. Lin Chia raised his arm to shield his side, taking the kick head-on. He then seized her ankle with one hand, placing the other in the air, murmuring, "Wild winds rush on the lonely road. Flames burn bright in the crimson sky." As the two lines of poetry were spoken, a fierce wind erupted around Lin Chia, followed by crimson flames swirling within the gust, instantly engulfing the entire open space. Jialon's robe was lifted by the wind. At that moment, one of her legs was still caught in Lin Chia's grip. As her robe billowed, the hem of her Han robe was lifted, revealing her fair thigh, with the embers of the burning flames dancing in the air, a glimpse of spring emerging. Lin Chia, about to continue his attack, froze in place at this sight. Jialon's face turned bright red in an instant, her eyes filled with a mix of embarrassment and anger. She forcefully broke free from Lin Chia's hold, stepping back a few paces and glaring fiercely at him. Lin Chia had never encountered such a situation before and was momentarily at a loss for words. "I'm sorry, Jialon, I didn't mean to. I didn't see anything white. Oh no, I didn't see any color at all." Jialon's cheeks flushed, her teeth clenched as she glared at Lin Chia, her grip on the golden spear tightening. Lin Chia keenly sensed killing intent rolling in waves. He swallowed hard, suddenly realizing that today's training might very well turn into a life-and-death situation. A few hours later, and Qingyu, having fully set up the laboratory, stepped out of the room, stretching his stiff neck. Upon seeing the scene in the warehouse, he froze in place. "Draw across here, you need to draw across here." Bai Li Pangpang, clad in jade armor, radiated a powerful sea realm aura, floating 12 forbidden items around him, pinning the madman Chao Yuan to the ground. He. Madman Chao Yuan was brimming with malevolent energy, desperately trying to break free from the 2 forbidden items restraining him, wearing an expression of defiance. Old Chow, I beg you, can we stop the silly laughter? It's been an afternoon and you haven't even drawn a single cross. Bai Li Peng Peng said, exasperated. I've taken your weapon from you over a dozen times. Why are you still so stubborn? He. Bai Li Peng Peng. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses and walked over to the two, asking in confusion, it's been an afternoon and still no progress? No progress at all. I'm about to drop dead from exhaustion. Bai Li Peng Peng wiped the sweat from his forehead. After transforming, no matter how much I call out, there's no response. A hint of gray light appeared in Qingyu's eyes as he crouched down, examining the small string of prayer beads on Madman Chao Yuan's wrist. After a moment he spoke. Try using this thing to disarm him. Bai Li Peng Peng was taken aback, and a massive Taiji Bagua diagram unfolded beneath his feet, the positions of heaven and earth shifting. The string of prayer beads suddenly erupted with a faint golden light, enveloping Madman Chao Yuan's body. Madman Chao Yuan's struggles immediately weakened somewhat, and a faint glow emanated from his crimson eyes. The concentration beads? Did he bring this out from the forbidden item collection? Bai Li Peng Peng asked in surprise. If he's wearing this, why can't he control himself? Because in his mad state he cannot channel his mental energy into the beads, and Qingyu replied calmly. Thus, this string of beads has no effect after he transforms. Only when he can initially control his will can he barely use these beads. So, this thing is useless until he can control his consciousness? Exactly. But as long as he can slightly control his consciousness, combined with the enhancement from these beads, his control over Black King Annihilation should significantly improve. And Qingyu watched Madman Chao Yuan, whose eyes flickered with light. He struggled to extend his hand, grasping a half-broken branch that had fallen to the ground, shakily placing it in the corner of the tic-tac-toe board. He drew a crooked cross. Chapter 464. The Command of the Murmurs. After finishing this stroke, Chao Yuan felt as if he had lost all his strength and collapsed to the ground. The black malevolent flames dissipated into the air. Chao Yuan, drenched in sweat, lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot. Beside him, Bai Li Peng Peng had already put away the restraints that had been locked onto him and helped him up from the ground. Is the training time over? Chao Yuan asked weakly. And Qingyu nodded. Time's up. Old Chao, you really tortured me this afternoon. Bai Li Peng Peng wiped the sweat from his forehead and patted his head. Listening to your silly laughter all afternoon, I feel like I still have auditory hallucinations. Chao Yuan looked down at the tic-tac-toe grid on the ground. In the bottom right corner, a large X occupied the space of 4 squares. According to the rules of tic-tac-toe, this move was completely a foul, but it didn't matter to him. Being able to control himself in a frenzied state and draw a symbol was already a crucial step on the path to mastering the Black King's decimation. After this attempt he seemed to have grasped some key points. Where's Lin Chia? Is he still not done? And Qingyu seemed to remember something and asked in confusion. He and Jiaolon went outside to find a place to train. I don't know how they're doing now. Bai Li Peng Peng glanced at the time on the wall. It was getting late outside. Shall we go look for them? It's almost mealtime. The 3 of them left the warehouse, circled around, and finally heard a series of booming sounds coming from afar. Golden pillars of light shot up into the sky, piercing through the heavy clouds and creating several holes. Blinding flames and darkness surged where the pillars rose, and terrifying energy waves spilled out. Seeing this scene, Chao Yuan's expression turned strange. Are you sure they're training? Let's go take a look. The 3 rushed toward the source of the sound and arrived at the devastated battlefield, stopping in their tracks. They saw 2 figures, one blue and one black, rapidly colliding in midair. Darkness and golden spear light divided the sky into 2 parts, and brilliant explosions burst forth, mushroom clouds rising slowly. Lin Chia held the praying abyss in his left hand and the white slasher in his right, with a silver magic cube floating in front of him. He stood on a massive tree trunk, its thick roots entwined underground, deeply embedded in the shattered ground. His body was covered in wounds, his hair disheveled in the wind, and his face was smeared with dirt and grime, looking as if he had just gone through an extremely brutal battle. Jiaolon, you can almost stop now. Lin Chia couldn't help but shout. Whoosh! A golden pillar of light brushed past his body, nearly dissolving him in midair. Jialon, holding the Heaven's Gap spear, stood on the ground with a chilling killing intent. With a flick of her spear she instantly pierced through the massive tree. Bai Li Pang Pang and the others were dumbfounded. Their training is too intense, right? Bai Li Pang Pang smacked his lips. Compared to them, I think old Chao you look quite cute after darkening. Chao Yuan twitched at the corner of his mouth. Jialon, it's really enough. The training time is over. Jialon, I was wrong just now. I sincerely apologize to you. I'll give you 2 extra chicken legs for lunch. Oh no, 3. While dodging Jialan's golden spear light in midair, Lin Chia kept trying to persuade her, his lips nearly worn out. Upon hearing the last sentence, Jialan's grip on the spear hesitated slightly, showing some uncertainty. After fighting for so long, her anger had mostly dissipated. Since Lin Chia was so sincere, maybe it wouldn't be bad to stop here? After pondering for a moment, she slowly extended 4 fingers. All right. 4 chicken legs. It's settled. Lin Chia breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing Lin Chia's promise, Jialon finally retracted her Heaven's Gap, turned her head to huff at Lin Chia and walked toward the warehouse. Bai Li Pang Pang and the others instinctively made way for her. Chia, your training is so serious, Chao Yuan said solemnly. If someone didn't know better, they might think Jialon wanted to kill you. Lin Chia. Let's go eat. Lin Chia waved his hand, indicating he didn't want to say more, and silently walked toward the warehouse. Half an hour later, Bai Li Pang Pang, Chao Yuan and An Qingyu looked at their empty bowls, then glanced at the chicken leg in Zhou Ping's bowl, and finally looked at Jialan's bowl, which was overflowing with chicken legs, falling into deep thought. Chia, why don't the 3 of us have chicken legs? Bai Li Pang Pang couldn't help but ask. Lin Chia pondered for a moment. Because you guys can't beat me. In the ancient god church, sitting on the thorn throne, the Whisperer looked at the 2 standing below and showed a satisfied expression. Very good, this time you not only completed the mission and killed Bai Li Tuming, but you also managed to kill Bai Li Xian. This indeed exceeded my expectations. The 9th seat respectfully spoke, reporting to Lord Whisperer, the kill of Bai Li Xian was mainly due to Shin Qingzhu's efforts. The Whisperer raised an eyebrow and turned to look at the silent Shin Qingzhu, his appreciation growing even stronger. Shin Qingzhu, you did very well this time. With Bai Li Xian and Bai Li Tuming dead, the Bai Li group will surely be left leaderless, and their monopoly on the Great Xia's forbidden items will come to a complete halt. This is a great benefit for both the ancient god church and the believers. Shin Qingzhu slightly bowed. Thank you for your praise, Lord Whisperer. The Whisperer seemed to remember something and said, next I need you to go to Lin Tang City. Lin Tang. The 9th seat asked in confusion, are we both going together? Not just you 2. The 3rd seat has already arrived in Lin Tang and the 7th seat is also on the way. Shin Qingzhu's brow furrowed slightly, a look of confusion appearing in her eyes. The 9th seat pondered, Lord Whisperer, what is our mission this time? You'll find out when you arrive. The 3rd seat will tell you, the Whisperer said calmly. Once I finish dealing with my current matters, I will also head over. The 9th seat nodded, not asking further questions, and directly left the church with Shin Qingzhu. To mobilize 4 believers to Lin Tang at the same time? That's nearly all of the believers' combat power right now. What could be in Lin Tang? After leaving the church, Shin Qingzhu frowned and thought. I'm not sure either, the 9th seat shook his head. But since Lord Whisper has given such orders, there must be his reasons. We just need to follow them. Chapter 465. Deteriorating Brocky. After a day of training, Lin Chia lay on his bed, slowly closing his eyes, his consciousness sinking into the mental hospital of the gods. Since leaving the fasting center, he had either been on a mission or on his way to one, leaving him little time to rest, and even less time to enter the mental hospital of the gods. Fortunately, he had Li Yifei, the head nurse, who regularly reported on the hospital's situation, so nothing particularly noteworthy had happened. Lin Chia donned a white coat and put on black-framed glasses, walking into the hospital like a real doctor. Hello, Director. A Zhu, holding a bundle of clothes and preparing to head to the laundry room, saw Lin Chia approaching and greeted him obediently. Lin Chia nodded and walked down the long corridor toward the spacious courtyard. In the center of the courtyard, Nix was sitting in a rocking chair, basking in the sun, a ball of black yarn on her lap, her hands deftly working with the threads as if she were knitting something. From the general shape it looked like a sweater. Seeing the sweater, Lin Chia's expression turned puzzled. If he remembered correctly, Nix had been knitting that same ball of yarn for about a year now. How could it still be unfinished? Nix noticed Lin Chia and smiled warmly. "You've come back to see me, Donatus?" "Yes, mother." Lin Chia walked over to Nix's side, smiling as he asked, "How have you been lately?" As he spoke, his gaze fell on the treatment progress bar above Nix's head. Since Nix had entered the mental hospital for treatment, over 2 years had passed, and her treatment progress had reached 89%, making her the most improved patient among the three. Behaviorally, Nix was no different from a normal person. Lin Chia hadn't seen her dazed, mumbling to herself or mistaking other things for her children in a long time. Most of her time was spent basking in the sun and knitting in the courtyard. Sometimes, when she felt like it, she would go to the activity room to engage in entertainment with others, often wearing a smile. The once erratic Nix had completely become a thing of the past. "Not bad," Nix said with a smile. "Our new neighbor, Mr. Broggy, is quite interesting. Although he sings a bit off-key, he has a lot of energy, reminding me of my younger days. Mr. Merlin is still so quiet, reading his books every day, and when he has time he discusses health insights with me. But lately he seems to be worried about his hairline. The children taking care of me are also very enthusiastic, often making me happy." After saying this, Nix unexpectedly pulled out a frisbee from somewhere and tossed it into the distance. The frisbee wobbled in the air before landing at the edge of the courtyard. In the next moment, a yellow pug dashed out, leaping at the edge of the courtyard, its mouth opening wide to catch the frisbee mid-air, then trotting back to Nix, obediently placing the frisbee on the ground. On its tongue lay a small golden bug resting quietly. Lin Chia looked in astonishment at the pug, which had completely adapted to its new body, unable to connect it with the sea from Gusu City that had stirred up a storm. The latter turned its head away, rolling its eyes silently, and ran off toward the nearby corridor without looking back. It ran up to Aju, nudging his pant leg with its head. Aju, standing in the corridor, bent down to pat the pug's head. "You're very good today, Bailey. As a reward, you can use tools to clean the toilet today." Upon hearing this, the pug finally sighed in relief. In front of Lin Chia's dumbfounded expression, its front legs suddenly lifted, standing up like a person with its left paw gripping a broom, its right paw holding a dustpan and a cloth in its mouth, waddling toward the toilet. Lin Chia. "By the way, Donatus," Nick seemed to remember something, "you should check on Mr. Broggy. His condition seems to have worsened recently." Lin Chia was taken aback. Broggy's condition had worsened? Could it be that his illness had deteriorated? He nodded, said goodbye to Nix and quickly walked back inside the building. After circling the entire building, Lin Chia finally found Broggy on the rooftop. He was sitting alone at the edge of the building, his beloved harp placed beside him, staring blankly at the sky above, lost in thought. Lin Chia's gaze swept over Broggy's head, and his expression immediately turned serious. During this time he had been instructing Li Yifei to administer medication to Broggy according to the notes he had copied from Dr. Li. He remembered that the last time he saw Broggy his treatment progress had reached 32%. But now the progress bar above his head had stagnated at 16%. His treatment progress had actually regressed. What could be the reason? Was it the wrong medication? That couldn't be. If the medication were wrong, the treatment progress would have decreased from the start. How could it have improved to 32% only to deteriorate afterward? Lin Chia pondered for a moment before stepping closer to Broggy. "Broggy." "Oh, it's the director." Broggy took a moment to snap back to reality, looking at Lin Chia with a somewhat dazed expression. "I see you don't look well. Have you encountered any problems recently?" Lin Chia asked with concern. "No, not really." Broggy instinctively shook his head, but after hesitating for a moment he looked up at Lin Chia and said earnestly, "Director, I have a request." "Go ahead. I want to leave the hospital for a while." Lin Chia was taken aback. "Leave here? Are you dissatisfied with this place?" "No, I really like it here. The people are all very friendly, but..." Broggy fell silent, the light in his eyes gradually dimming. "I miss her." Upon hearing this response, Lin Chia quickly realized, "You miss your wife?" "Yes." Broggy nodded slightly. "Unlike the scheming Asgard, life here feels very comfortable." If I could, I would even want to stay here long term. But my wife Eden has not been found. I don't know where she is, what she's doing, or if she's doing well. I dream about her every night. In my dreams, her situation is always dire. In some dreams, she is imprisoned by Loki and other evil gods, never seeing the light of day. In others, she is forced onto the battlefield, fighting against other ruthless deities. I even dreamt that she had died in some unknown place. Bragi's face grew increasingly pale, his hands trembling slightly. Eden is my wife. She will always be the woman I love the most. Without her by my side, I cannot enjoy life here at all. I must find her. Chapter 466. Lin Chia's Lovesickness. Lin Chia looked at the resolute Bragi in front of him and sighed inwardly. It must be said that although Bragi had the appearance of a sea king, he was quite infatuated. The problem was, even if you traveled the entire world, you still wouldn't be able to find her. Eden's heart was within his body, and her consciousness was hidden in his mind. In a sense, they were one person. Wanting to traverse the world to find oneself, wasn't that just a fool's dream? Bragi was completely unaware of all this, but Lin Chia knew the whole truth and naturally could not let him leave this mental hospital. Moreover, even if he wanted to let Bragi go, the hospital wouldn't allow it. Only when a patient's treatment progress reached 50% could they have the ability to leave the hospital for a short time. As it stood, Bragi was far from recovering to 50%. If things continued like this for a while, his treatment progress would likely drop back below 10%. So what should he do now? Should he tell her about Eden's death while trying to save him? No, absolutely not. Although Lin Chia was not a professional psychiatrist, he could tell that Bragi's emotions were very unstable right now. If he learned the truth, he might just leap off the rooftop to join Eden in death. He couldn't tell him the truth and he couldn't let him leave the hospital. Simply using medication would be of no help. What to do? Lin Chia felt a bit overwhelmed. Bragi's situation was much more complicated than he had imagined. It's not that I don't want to let you leave, but I can't break the rules here to send you out, Lin Chia said regretfully. Upon hearing this, the light in Bragi's eyes dimmed a little. Above his head, the treatment progress bar instantly dropped from 16% to 14%. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly and he quickly added, "But don't lose hope. Give me some time and I will definitely help you solve this problem." Bragi sighed and didn't say much more, but his expression showed that he didn't believe Lin Chia could help him. Lin Chia didn't waste any more time and quickly returned to his office, pulling out a thick stack of handwritten notes to review carefully. These notes were copied verbatim from Dr. Li's records while he was at the fasting center. Now Lin Chia could only pin his hopes on Dr. Li, who claimed to be the best psychiatrist in the entire Great Xia. Perhaps he had a method to deal with this situation? It turned out that Lin Chia was overthinking. He spent several hours going through all the notes but found no cases that matched the current situation, let alone any valuable solutions. He sighed deeply, leaning back in his chair and rubbing the corners of his tired eyes. The path of notes was a dead end, which meant he could only rely on himself now. But when it came to emotions, that wasn't his strong suit, was it? Thinking of this, a certain face suddenly appeared in Lin Chia's mind, and his eyes brightened slightly. Perhaps he would have a way. The next day, after finishing the morning reading session, everyone gathered around a small table, enjoying the food laid out before them. Lin Chia glanced at Bai Li Pang Pang, who was eating heartily, and after a moment's hesitation he transferred a chicken leg from his bowl to Bai Li's. Bai Li Pang Pang froze in place. "Chia, what are you doing?" "I have a question about emotions that I want to consult you about," Lin Chia said seriously. "Pfft." Chow Yuan nearly spat out his soup, turning his head to the side and coughing vigorously while patting his chest. Everyone except Zhou Ping looked at Lin Chia in shock, beginning to doubt what they had just heard. Lin Chia? An emotional problem? Jialan's expression became subtle. Zhou Ping lowered his head and silently took a few bites of his food, pretending to be nonchalant while his ears perked up. Emotions. Emotions. Bai Li Pang Pang stood there for a moment, then suddenly put down his bowl and chopsticks, wiped the grease from his mouth and spoke with utmost seriousness. "You speak." Lin Chia organized his thoughts. "I have a friend." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched in unison. "He deeply loves a woman." Bai Li Pang Pang. W. And Qing Yu equals W smiley face. Chow Yuan. W. Jialon. But due to certain reasons they cannot meet. Jialon's face instantly darkened. My friend is worried about her safety, which has led to him not sleeping well every day, and his mental state is very poor. He has even developed a pathological trend. I want to know how to handle this situation better. Lin Chia, with dark circles under his eyes, asked earnestly. Chia, can I ask a question first? Bai Li Pangpang couldn't help but ask, those dark circles under your eyes. Oh, I didn't sleep well last night, Lin Chia replied, taken aback for a moment. Last night he had spent the entire night researching information in the mental hospital, so it was normal for him to have dark circles. Bai Li Pangpang and the others exchanged glances and silently nodded. Jialon's lips pursed slightly, and her eyes glistened with tears as she looked at Lin Chia. Ahem, your friend's current situation should be considered lovesickness, Bai Li Pangpang cautiously phrased. The best solution for lovesickness is, of course, to meet rather than pine for each other. However, we are currently confined to a military base, so meeting is indeed not very realistic. What's that got to do with where we are? Lin Chia asked in confusion. No, what I mean is, meeting is not very realistic, but with today's advanced technology, making a video call is still possible, right? If that doesn't work, writing a letter is also an option. Don't you think so, Sword Saint? Bai Li Pangpang turned to Zhou Ping, who was quietly eating. Zhou Ping nodded. I can help you apply for a smartphone. Lin Chia glanced at the strangely expressive group and felt a bit speechless. I'm not talking about myself, it's really just a friend. Right, it's a friend. Everyone nodded vigorously. Lin Chia couldn't be bothered to argue with them. He furrowed his brows slightly. In that brief moment he seemed to have grasped something crucial. Pangpang, what did you just say? Bai Li Pangpang was taken aback. Right, it's a friend. The previous sentence. Oh, I said that with today's technology we can make video calls? Or writing letters is also fine. Writing letters. Lin Chia seemed to have thought of something and his eyes gradually brightened. Chapter 467. Writing a Letter. The Asylum of the Gods. Knock, knock, knock. A crisp knocking sound echoed, causing Brocky, who was about to undress and sleep, to pause slightly. He walked over and opened the door, only to see a familiar figure in a white coat standing in the corridor. Director. Brocky was puzzled to see Lin Chia visiting him so late. Lin Chia nodded and stepped into the room. I came this time to deliver something to you, Lin Chia said, a flash of light appearing in his palm as a red mailbox materialized out of thin air. The mailbox was about half the size of a desk with an older design, and its paint was somewhat chipped. From the outside it looked no different from the mailboxes commonly seen decades ago. Brocky held the mailbox, his expression of confusion deepening. Director, this is a treasure borrowed from a friend. Letters placed inside this mailbox can ignore space and be delivered directly to the hands of the person you care about the most, Lin Chia said seriously. And the person receiving the letter only needs to burn the reply along with the received letter, and the reply will appear in this mailbox. Brocky was taken aback, carefully examining the red mailbox for a long time before skeptically saying, Director, you can't be fooled by this. Isn't this just an ordinary mailbox? How could it possibly have the ability to ignore space? Your realm isn't high enough, so you can't see the mysteries within, but its extraordinary ability is indeed real, Lin Chia asserted. Then does that mean I just need to put my letter in the mailbox and Eden will receive it and reply to me? Of course, but there are some limitations when using it, Lin Chia explained. First, its ability can only be used once a day, and letters can only be sent and replies received at night. During this time you must not look at it. Otherwise the spatial transfer will be interrupted and the letter will be lost in the void. Secondly, once you have locked onto a person as the recipient, you cannot change the recipient for a year. This means that after you send a letter to Eden, you cannot send letters to anyone else besides her. After hearing Lin Chia's serious words, Brocky, who initially doubted the capabilities of this ordinary mailbox, began to waver. What he said seems to have some truth to it. And he had no reason to deceive himself. Could it be that this mailbox truly has some mysterious aspect? Then can I send a letter right now? Brocky asked, a bit impatiently. Of course, Lin Chia gestured for him to proceed. Brocky quickly sat down at the desk, took out paper and pen, and after a moment of contemplation began to write fervently. To my eternal beloved Eden. When you read this letter, it means this attempt has succeeded and I have finally made contact with you. In these days without you. Lin Chia stood by silently watching Brocky write the letter earnestly. His figure cast a long shadow in the dim light, and his pen never stopped moving as if he had 1,000 words to express. He smiled at times, felt dejected at others, and sometimes appeared sorrowful. Time passed second by second, and by the time Brocky put down his pen, 3 sheets of densely written letters lay in front of him. There's still something missing, Lin Chia suddenly spoke. Brocky was taken aback. What else is missing? If you don't write down how to reply, how will she know how to respond to you? Brocky slapped his thigh, his expression one of realization. Right, I almost forgot. He picked up the pen again and detailed the method for replying, finally folding it neatly before taking a deep breath and gently placing it into the mailbox. Is it okay now? He asked cautiously. Yes, Lin Chia smiled. You should get a good night's sleep. If all goes well, when you wake up tomorrow morning, you will receive Eden's reply from the mailbox. But remember, you must not look at the mailbox on the way and you absolutely cannot open it. Do you understand? Brocky nodded vigorously. After everything was settled, Lin Chia left Brocky's room, but he did not leave the asylum. Instead, he shifted his form and sat down at the base of a large tree in the courtyard, quietly observing the situation inside the room. As he expected, Brocky first walked around the room excitedly several times, unable to control himself from looking at the mailbox. He finally decided to cover his eyes with a pillow and lay down on the bed, falling into a deep sleep. The hazy moonlight spilled into the room, and after an unknown amount of time he slowly sat up from the bed. His eyes opened, but the earlier excitement was gone. No, she draped a light veil over herself, got out of bed and looked out the window, catching a distant glance at Lin Chia beneath the tree. Gratitude appeared in her eyes. Although Eden usually lay dormant in the deepest part of Brocky's consciousness, she was still aware of what was happening in the outside world. From the moment Lin Chia produced the so-called space-ignoring mailbox, she had already guessed his intentions. Just as Brocky had said, it was merely an ordinary mailbox. Its true purpose was to conceal the fact that Eden was right beside him, allowing the two to communicate to a certain extent through this form. The seemingly intimidating rules were merely protective measures by Lin Chia to prevent exposure. Eden walked to the desk and sat down, opening the mailbox to take out the letter Brocky had written to her, reading it carefully. Although she already knew what it contained, knowing and reading it in hand were entirely different experiences. At that moment she was no longer a wandering soul residing within Brocky but rather the wife he longed for. I am in a very magical, very quiet place. I cannot comprehend the existence of this place, but everything here makes me feel very comfortable. How about you? How are you doing now? The days here remind me of the beautiful time we spent in the Eternal Garden, but there are no annoying evil gods here. My dearest Eden, if possible, how I wish to live here with you forever. During my time living here I have written a few poems for you. When we meet again I want to sing them to you in person. Looking at the familiar handwriting, Eden's eyes began to glisten with tears. She had been watching Brocky's state during this time, and while her heart felt joy from his deep love, it was overshadowed by worry and heartache for him. In the dim light, Eden picked up the pen, tears in her eyes, and began to write a reply to Brocky. Chapter 468, Sword Chi Tides. The next day, morning, Brocky groggily sat up in bed, staring sleepily at the sunlight outside for a moment. As if remembering something, he quickly jumped out of bed and rushed to the red mailbox. He swallowed hard, reached out his hand and nervously opened the mailbox. Inside there lay a letter quietly waiting. Brocky's eyes instantly lit up. He took the letter out and upon seeing the elegant handwriting at the beginning, he froze in place as if struck by lightning. It was her handwriting. There was no mistaking it. He trembled as he tore open the envelope and quickly began to read the letter inside. My dearest Brocky, I truly did not expect to find this letter under my pillow. You cannot imagine how excited I was when I saw this letter. I will burn this letter along with your reply as you instructed. If you can see this letter, it means this must be the greatest miracle in the world. I am doing well. After we got separated, I returned to the shattered Asgard and am living in the little house we built together. Before writing this letter, I just finished watering the garden. You cannot imagine how beautiful it is here now. If possible, I would like to be by your side again and listen to you sing the poems for me one more time. I miss you so much. I look forward to your reply. After finishing the letter, Blocky's body trembled uncontrollably. He tightly clutched the letter, his eyes filled with unprecedented excitement. She was alive and she was doing well. All his worries had not come to pass. From now on, although they could not meet for the time being, they could write to each other every day and feel each other's presence. The heart that had been hanging in suspense could finally be set free. Blocky grasped the letter in his hand and danced out of the room. She replied. In the yard. The lazy Bailey, who had been napping on the ground, suddenly woke up to the shout. It lifted its head to glance at the frenzied Blocky, rolled its eyes and lowered its head again, muttering to itself. Crazy. Meanwhile, Lin Chia, who was washing up, noticed the commotion in the courtyard and couldn't help but smile. As he expected, after Blocky's emotional knot was untied, his healing progress skyrocketed like a rocket, rising from the original 14% to 42%. It was only a matter of time before they broke through the 50% barrier. Having resolved a concern, Lin Chia felt a sense of lightness wash over him. He stepped into the training area and saw Zhou Ping seriously waxing and polishing the ground. Senior Sword Saint, this is a training ground. It doesn't seem necessary to wax it, right? Lin Chia couldn't help but ask. Zhou Ping glanced at him and shook his head. If you don't wax it, you might get hurt. Lin Chia was taken aback, confusion flickering in his eyes. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't connect waxing with the risk of injury. About 10 minutes later, everyone had arrived, and Zhou Ping had completed his extensive waxing task. The entire ground was incredibly smooth. If an ordinary person were here, they would easily slip and fall. Today we will begin mental strength training, Zhou Ping said calmly. Originally, I didn't want to conduct this training because cultivating mental strength is a process that requires a lot of time to accumulate. Recklessly using external forces to assist in cultivation, if not controlled well, could have adverse effects. But since Yi Fan has requested that all of you break through to the Sea realm in a short time, we will have to rely on some external forces. He gestured and a black sword box flew into his hand. A faint humming sound emanated from within, and a chilling sword intent radiated out. For some reason, Lin Chia and the others suddenly felt an ominous premonition. When I was in middle school, I realized a method to quickly enhance mental strength using sword energy while washing dishes. I call it sword energy tidal wave, Zhou Ping began slowly. In a moment, I will release half-formed sword energy and create a tidal wave of sword energy in this space. During this process, the pure and fine sword energy will seep into your minds, refining your spirits. What you need to do is to stay awake for as long as possible within this tidal wave of sword energy. The longer you remain awake, the better the refining effect. After hearing this, Bai Li Pang's expression turned somewhat grim. Senior Sword Saint, does that mean we have to endure your sword energy until we can't anymore? Exactly. Bai Li Pang couldn't help but ask, is this safe? I will control the intensity of the sword energy. It won't pose a life-threatening danger to you, Zhou Ping said expressionlessly, holding the sword box. If you are ready, I will begin. Lin Chia and the others exchanged glances, nodded and slightly lowered their bodies, preparing to brace for the impact. Go ahead, Senior Sword Saint, Lin Chia said. Zhou Ping extended his right hand, lightly tapping the surface of the sword box. In the next moment, a clear sword ringing echoed throughout the warehouse. Ding! Thousands of invisible sword energies erupted from Zhou Ping, surging outward like a tidal wave. The moment the sword energy crashed into Lin Chia and the others, their bodies were sent flying like pieces of driftwood in a storm. They landed heavily on the ground, sliding across the smooth surface without any resistance, finally stopping against the wall at the edge of the warehouse. Lin Chia felt as if his mind had been struck head-on by a massive hammer. Darkness enveloped his vision and unbearable pain flooded his consciousness. By the time he managed to regain his senses, his back had already slammed against the wall of the warehouse. The surging sword energy pinned his body against the wall, and no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free, as if a raging river was crashing against him, a strong sense of suffocation engulfing his mind. The same sensation occurred simultaneously for the others. The first to succumb was the one with the lowest realm in Qingyu, followed by Chao Yuan. Bai Li Pangpang, relying on his C realm mental strength, managed to hold on for nearly a minute before losing consciousness, fainting at the same time as Lin Chia. Once all four had lost consciousness, Zhou Ping retracted the rampaging sword energy, narrowing his eyes as he curiously observed the still-awake Jialan. Jialan sat against the wall, her face somewhat pale, but that was all. Zhou Ping slowly walked up to her, scrutinizing her carefully, and spoke thoughtfully. It seems that not only is your defense extraordinary due to the Forbidden Ruins, but your own mental strength realm also exceeds my expectations. Who exactly are you? Chapter 469, The Gathering of Believers. In a haze, Lin Chia slowly opened his eyes. The remnants of sword energy still washed over his mind, causing a faint pain. He furrowed his brows and sat up in bed, feeling incredibly weak, as if he had consumed fake alcohol. Lin Chia looked down and noticed that at some point, the blanket had been neatly spread over him. The slippers by the bed were aligned with their toes pointing outward, and on the small table at the head of the bed, there was a thermos. He twisted the lid open and steam slowly rose from it. A look of confusion appeared in his eyes. The sword energy tide had not yet ended yesterday when he fainted, completely unaware of what happened afterward or how he returned to his room. He glanced at the sky outside the window, got out of bed and walked toward the training ground. As expected, the busy Zhou Ping had already begun his daily cleaning routine. In the empty space apart from him, there was only Jiao Lan sitting beside him on a small stool. Lin Chia looked at the time on the wall. It was 7:07 a.m. Theoretically, it should be time for class, but Zhou Ping seemed to have no intention of waking them up. You're here. Zhou Ping glanced at Lin Chia. Today's class has been pushed back. We'll start once you all wake up. Lin Chia nodded, then as if recalling something he asked, Sword Saint, how did we get back to our rooms after the sword energy tide training yesterday? She carried you all back one by one. Zhou Ping pointed at Jialan. Lin Chia was taken aback and nodded. So was her. Lin Chia walked over and sat down on the small stool beside Jialan. Thank you for yesterday. Lin Chia sincerely expressed his gratitude to Jialan. However, before he could finish his sentence, Jialan quickly turned her head away, snorted softly and pressed her lips together, looking as if she had no intention of speaking to him. Lin Chia was left stunned. What's going on? Is she angry? But he didn't do anything. Just as Lin Chia was trying to decipher Jialan's feelings, and Qingyu and Chao Yuan dragged the sleepy Bai Li Pangpang out of the room, each taking a seat on the small stools. How did you all come out of one room? Lin Chia asked in surprise. I don't know. When we woke up, we were all in one room. Chao Yuan rubbed his neck, which felt a bit stiff, and said with a strange expression, I was fine, still in bed when I woke up, but Pangpang was sleeping on the floor. Lin Chia turned to look at Jialan, whose expression suddenly seemed a bit guilty. Since everyone is here, let's start class. Zhou Ping dragged a cardboard box filled with novels in front of everyone. Each person pick one book. This morning's content will still be reading. In Lintang City, a black car slowly drove into a dilapidated manor in the suburbs. Shen Qingzhu and the ninth seat got out of the car, gazing at the ancient villa covered in vines and moss, their eyes narrowing slightly. This is the place that Lord Murmurs mentioned? Shen Qingzhu looked around. It doesn't seem special. Since Lord Murmurs chose this location, there must be a deeper meaning. The ninth seat locked the car door and walked toward the villa. Let's go. If nothing unexpected happens, the third seat and the seventh seat should already be here. The two entered the villa one after the other. The floor tiles were cracked and uneven, the ceiling was covered in cobwebs, and a few mice scurried through the dim corridor. Fragmented sunlight filtered through the cracks in the walls, and vines twisted like grotesque veins, invading the walls on either side. This place doesn't look like it can accommodate people, the ninth seat said, somewhat surprised. This was never meant for people to live in. A lazy voice came from the end of the corridor. Shen Qingzhu and the ninth seat tensed up simultaneously, squinting toward the source of the voice. They saw a woman in a qipao standing before an ancient door, her hair slightly curled, holding a painted fan that she gently waved. Her blood-red lips curled into a smile as she looked at them. Upon seeing that figure, the ninth seat relaxed. Seventh seat, can you not appear like a ghost every time? The ninth seat said helplessly. The seventh seat put away her fan and sneered. What? The dignified ninth seat of the believers is afraid of ghosts? If that's the case, you won't be able to participate in this operation. This operation is related to ghosts? The ninth seat keenly caught the key point. The seventh seat said nothing more, turning around with her slender figure swaying gracefully as she walked toward the room behind her. The sound of her high heels clicking against the tiled floor echoed in the empty corridor. Bring your little friend along and come in. Shin Qingzhu frowned slightly but said nothing more, following the ninth seat into the room. The space inside the room was much larger than Shin Qingzhu had imagined, and compared to the crumbling exterior, the furnishings here were much more complete. In the center of the moss-covered room stood a massive wooden long table, at which sat a gaunt man quietly. Upon seeing the two enter, he lifted his drooping eyelids slightly, then averted his gaze. Third seat. The ninth seat raised an eyebrow upon seeing the man, then looked toward the corner of the room, where a young man in his early 20s was gazing out the window. Who is that? He's a newcomer brought by Lord Murmurs, replacing the former Lao Han's position. He is now the 12th seat, the 7th seat explained in a timely manner. The young man turned his head, his gaze lightly sweeping over the 9th seat before landing on Shin Qingzhu. His eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a dangerous glint as he seemed to be pondering something. A newcomer, the 9th seat nodded thoughtfully. So, apart from the first seat, all existing members of the believers are present. No. The third seat sitting at the table suddenly spoke. The first seat has also arrived. The first seat is here too? Both the 9th seat and the 7th seat displayed expressions of surprise. Where is he? Although the two had been part of the believers for a long time, they had rarely heard about the first seat and had never seen his appearance. Now that the third seat said the first seat had arrived, they were naturally filled with confusion. You don't need to know that. The third seat slowly stood up from his seat. When it's time for him to appear, he will naturally show up. Chapter 470. Underground Altar. The 7th seat frowned slightly and sneered. No wonder you're the first seat. Your airs are indeed considerable. So, what exactly is our mission this time? The 9th seat bypassed the topic of the first seat and continued. Mobilizing 5 believers at once is quite rare. Is it? I seem to recall a larger operation not long ago, the 7th seat said softly, casting an intentional glance at Shin Qingzhu. 7 believers attacked the fasting site and all the higher-ranking believers died, leaving only one newcomer to return alive. Don't you find that strange? Shin Qingzhu met the gaze of the 7th seat, his expression darkening. What do you mean by that? The 9th seat said coldly. Are you questioning Lord Murmurs? No, how could I dare to question Lord Murmurs? The 7th seat shook her head. I just find it strange that ever since this little one joined us, the number of members we've lost in a year exceeds that of the previous 20 years. Perhaps this kid is a disaster. Whoever gets close to him is bound to die. Is that so? Then how am I still alive? The 9th seat stepped in front of the 7th seat, his eyes icy as he spoke menacingly. Woman, if you dare to say such nonsense again, do you believe I won't tear your mouth apart first? Just based on you? Enough. The voice of the 3rd seat suddenly rang out, halting the atmosphere in the room. He stepped between the two, his drooping eyelids lifting slightly. This is not a place for you to fight among yourselves. If you want to brawl, wait until the mission is over. For now, just do your work honestly. Both the 9th seat and the 7th seat fell silent simultaneously. Follow me. The 3rd seat turned and walked toward the corner of the room, heading for the broken steps leading underground. The 7th seat, 9th seat and 12th seat followed closely behind. Shin Qingzhu squinted at the back of the 7th seat for a long time before finally stepping forward, trailing behind the others as they descended the steps. From the number of steps, it seemed they had descended at least 3 floors underground. The sides of the steps were empty and pitch black, with only the sound of the 7th seat's high heels echoing, indicating they were in a vast underground space. As they reached the bottom of the steps, the 3rd seat waved his hand gently and dim lights flickered on, illuminating a corner of the underground space. Shin Qingzhu froze in place at the sight before him. In the dim light, the outline of a massive gray-black altar emerged. This altar was about the size of a football field, lying quietly in the center of the underground space, its surface covered in cracks, resembling an artwork that had been shattered and reassembled. In the upper right corner of the altar, a large number of bricks and stones were missing, but they had now been filled in with some yellow-brown unidentified substance, looking exceedingly strange. "This is..." The ninth seat's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the altar. "The altar of the underworld," the third seat spoke slowly. "This is a divine object from beyond the mist, restored to its current form. Our mission is to infuse our spiritual energy into the altar to awaken it completely." Infuse spiritual energy? The seventh seat frowned slightly. "Such a simple task requires so many of us to accomplish?" The third seat glanced at her. "Do you know what a divine object is? To fully unleash its power, it requires divine energy to activate. If we rely solely on spiritual energy to awaken this altar, even just to trigger it, the amount of spiritual energy needed is astronomical. Even if we personally poured in spiritual energy day and night, it would take at least 2 months to barely activate it. So, for the next 2 months we have to spend time in this hellhole?" The 12th seat's expression darkened. "That's right." The third seat nodded and added, "This is Lord Murmur's command." Upon hearing the last sentence, the 12th seat, who had wanted to say something, could only snort coldly and swallow back his words. Shin Qingzhu furrowed his brows as he examined the altar, pondering, "What will happen after we awaken this altar?" "You'll find out then." Shin Qingzhu continued to ask, "Since this is a divine object from the mist, how did it end up underground in Lintang City? With such a large size, it couldn't have crossed the border quietly and been transported here, could it?" "That's not something you should concern yourself with." The third seat showed no intention of answering that question. After failing to get answers to 2 consecutive questions, Shin Qingzhu's brows tightened further. Taking advantage of the others dispersing to examine the altar, he stepped forward to observe around it. Soon he seemed to discover something, gently crouching down and pinching the ground with his fingertips. "Soil?" Shin Qingzhu looked at the clump of soil on his fingertip, momentarily taken aback. He raised his head to look around and noticed that the ground was scattered with dirt, which was not very noticeable under the dim light. This should be a basement that originally existed in the manor, with the floor paved with tiles. Where did all this dirt come from? After pondering for a moment, Shin Qingzhu stood up and began to walk toward the dim surroundings. The lighting in this basement had deteriorated over the years, with most of it damaged. Only scattered lights illuminated the underground space, while large areas remained shrouded in darkness. Shin Qingzhu rubbed his fingertips together, and a small flame appeared in his palm, illuminating the dim environment around him. He walked in one direction and soon reached the edge of the basement, touching a wall covered in dust and cobwebs. "Is there a draft?" Shin Qingzhu noticed the direction of the flame in his hand shifting and narrowed his eyes. After a moment of contemplation, he slowly moved forward in the direction of the airflow. Eventually he arrived at another wall opposite him. This wall was constructed like the others, but strangely in the center, it was covered by a large black cloth, about 10 meters long, completely obscuring the wall. The corners of the cloth fluttered slightly as if a breeze was passing through. Shin Qingzhu stared at the cloth for a long time, reached out, grabbed one end of it and pulled down hard. Rip! The cloth fell with a sound, revealing a large hole over 4 meters in radius, with the edges of the opening uneven and not resembling a man-made excavation. A slight breeze blew out from the hole, and the dark cavity extended deep into the ground, leading to an unknown destination. Shin Qingzhu looked at the large hole, his eyes filled with even more confusion. At that moment, a hand rested on his shoulder. Shin Qingzhu turned sharply, only to see the third seat standing quietly behind him, gazing at the large hole before them, calmly saying, "Having too much curiosity is not a good thing, newcomer." Chapter 471. You Can't Afford to Play. 2 months later. Reinforced warehouse. Lin Chia slowly closed the book in his hands and let out a long breath. He looked around and found that everyone else was still immersed in their stories, not making a sound to disturb him. They silently returned their books to the cardboard boxes and headed toward the kitchen. In these 2 months he had read through all the novels in the boxes. From initially skimming through the text to now savoring every word, Lin Chia had become accustomed to immersing himself in the books, experiencing the joys and sorrows of the characters. Although he still couldn't learn any techniques from the books, This period of focused reading had greatly changed his state of mind. During these 2 months, the mystery, the believers, the ancient god church, the outer gods, these things that had been haunting him seemed to have completely vanished from his world. He no longer had to rush for tasks or live in constant fear. The taut string in his mind finally relaxed completely, and the restlessness that had lingered began to settle. If he had to describe his life over the past 2 months in one word, it would be calm. Calm down, read books, cook, clean, train. Whether it was due to the change in his state of mind or the training of sword chi tides, Lin Chia could already feel the bottleneck in his internal realm beginning to loosen. However, Lin Chia's progress was not the most significant. And Qingyu had already broken through the bottleneck a week ago, becoming the second team member to reach the sea realm after Bai Li Pangpang. Of course, this was because Zhou Ping often went out and brought back some strange mystery corpses for dissection. And Qingyu didn't need much training. As long as he could continuously use the one true answer to solve puzzles, his mental strength would increase at a terrifying speed. According to Zhou Ping, Jelon had already broken through the sea realm, so now in the entire team, only Lin Chia and Chao Yuan had not yet broken through their realms. Just as Lin Chia was tidying up the kitchen, and Qingyu walked in from outside. Chia. And Qingyu took out a palm-sized specimen from his pocket and handed it to Lin Chia. During this time, I've finished analyzing the Bell clan. You can take it and use it. Lin Chia accepted the corpse of Bell clan, and curiously asked, what ability did you gain from it? The method to create that kind of mental pollution mist. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses and took out a test tube containing a small amount of purple liquid that emitted a faint glow under the light. This is the concentrated mental pollution liquid I made. Its effect is similar to that of Bell clan, but I've condensed the mist into liquid form. Lin Chia took the test tube and shook the purple liquid. So, you can control other beings with this mental pollution now? Not quite. And Qingyu replied helplessly. The reason Bell clan can control beings affected by mental pollution is that the pollution is produced by its body. Anyone who inhales the mist will form a kind of mental link with it. But I'm not mystery, and can't fully replicate Bell clan's physiological structure. These liquids are artificially created using scientific methods. While they can erode others' minds, they cannot establish a mental link with them. Lin Chia nodded and comforted him. That's already impressive. And Qingyu smiled shyly. You can keep this tube for self-defense. Just break the bottle when you need to use it, but be careful not to inhale the gas or you'll be affected too. Okay. Lin Chia brought out the prepared dishes, and after everyone finished lunch, they took a short break before starting the afternoon's practical training. Bai Li Pangpang and Chao Yuan sat across from each other, with a large tic-tac-toe board between them. Each had a stick beside them, their expressions extremely serious. Are you ready? Chao Yuan took a deep breath. Ready. Bai Li Pangpang gripped the jade ring in his hand, looking as if he were facing a great enemy. Bring it on. Then here I come. Chao Yuan placed his thumb on the knife handle and slowly pushed it out. A flash of blade light erupted and black malevolent flames surged forth. Chao Yuan, cloaked in a layer of malevolent flames, raised his head, his crimson eyes emitting a chilling light as terrifying malevolence swept out. In the next moment, his body trembled, the crimson in his eyes quickly dimming, a clarity rising in his gaze. The Buddhist beads on his wrist emitted a faint golden light, and he slowly relaxed his grip on the knife handle. You go first, down. Mumbled words spilled from the mouth of the frenzied Chao Yuan, his body still trembling slightly, every muscle fighting against the consciousness of the Black King, struggling for control. Seeing this, Bai Li Pangpang let out a sigh of relief, quickly grabbing the stick beside him and drawing a circle in the corner of the tic-tac-toe board. Your turn. The frenzied Chao Yuan moved his hand away from the knife handle, grasped the stick beside him and shakily lifted it, drawing a crooked X in the center of the board. Bai Li Pangpang raised his hand again and drew another circle in the corner. The two continued to draw, and finally Bai Li Pangpang raised his hand and drew another circle, forming a straight line with 3 circles, achieving victory. I won. Bai Li Pangpang grinned, looking up at the frenzied Chao Yuan, his expression suddenly freezing. Chao Yuan glanced at the board, then at Bai Li Pangpang, seemingly a bit angry. He suddenly gripped the stick tightly and snapped it in half. Crack. Immediately, the clarity in Chao Yuan's eyes receded like a tide, The golden light from the Buddhist beads was suppressed by the malevolent energy, and a surge of black malevolence erupted. Damn. Lao Chao. Can't you just play nice? Bai Li Pengpeng's jade ring instantly transformed into a suit of armor covering his body, several forbidden objects floating around him, all of his mental strength from the sea realm pouring into them. Does it kill you to let me win once? The frenzied Chao Yuan spoke coherently, raising the straight knife in his hand, the blade entwined with black blade light, and crazily slashed toward Bai Li Pengpeng. What do you know? This is called competitive spirit. Bai Li Pengpeng refused to back down, a massive Taiji Bagua diagram unfolding beneath his feet, instantly covering the entire area. In a corner, Lin Chia turned to look at the warehouse, where explosions were continuously sounding, and sighed deeply. It seems Chao Yuan lost again today. He turned his head to look at the blue-robed girl standing opposite him, weighing the white long knife in his hand. Shall we start too? Jialon turned her head, her small mouth slightly puffed up, looking as if she was still sulking. Who said we are starting?